Hello, welcome back to another Swans Cast match preview. Spooky tonight, we're on Halloween recording. Hopefully we don't have any untimely interruptions. But I got Simon here from the Fence End podcast. So it's a new podcast for us on the channel. So welcome, Simon.
Hi, Luke. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. Always grateful to have you guys join on these match previews. And I know a lot of the listeners really enjoy to hear the take of the opposition, if you like, and kind of get an insight into what's going on from the other side, because I think it's quite easy to get drawn up to your own club and everything that's going on there. And we can look at the league table and see what position you're in, but that's not always the full story. So before we get into anything, Simon, can you just let us know where we can find the Fence End podcast and where you post all your stuff?
Yeah. So on Twitter, well, it's still Twitter, and I know it's X, but it's Twitter.
Yeah, I call it Twitter.
Yeah. The Fence End Pod. That's on all the usual podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from, the Fence End podcast.
Brilliant. So go check that out. I'll have the links and everything, as always, in the description below this video. And I'll do a tweet. I should do a tweet. It's just I forget quite often around the busy schedule, but I'll get a tweet out. So go and check out Simon and all their stuff. I did say new podcast on the channel. That's because Oxford obviously got promoted last season. So I like to start these videos just to sort of recap what happened last season in terms of your expectations. Did the season go as planned? I mean, I'd imagine it was quite a good season for yourselves, but were you expecting what happened? Or basically, what was the result compared to what you expected?
Yeah, I think over the last sort of few years, apart from the season before last, when we only avoided relegation with about a game to go, it was. But prior to that, we'd made a playoff final during the lockdown year. The following season, we made the semi-finals. So we'd been there or thereabouts. And I think the way we started last season under Liam Manning, now at Bristol City, but he'd started the season with us. We were going well. We were in second. He upped and left, and Des Buckingham, a former youth team player who never made the first team, but he'd gone around the world, gone to New Zealand, Australia, India, eventually came back to us. And it took a while for him to get kind of put his own stamp on things. He plays in a similar way to Manning, but I think he admitted himself he kept things going too long how it had been played before, rather than going, no, this is my way. And it took until probably got to a point away at Bolton when they beat us 5-0 at their place. And I think a lot of our fans were thinking, he's got to go. It's not worked. And sure enough, things did change, but for the better. And about sort of 2.5 months later, we're playing Bolton at Wembley, and we're a completely different side by then, and away we go. So he's certainly a very popular man now. He wasn't so much kind of round about sort of early March. It was a little bit dodgy at that point, but no, the season ended up. I think we were expecting around the playoffs. I don't think we were expecting automatics, but yeah, make the playoffs and anything can happen.
And obviously, a positive season then. You got promotion. I think that's always going to be a positive. But we're expecting a bit of a challenge going into this season then, because if you look at where you are currently, it's actually started quite well for you.
Yeah, I think if you'd have asked most of our fans, right, if we can finish one place outside the relegation spots, that's fine. It started pretty well. Home form was fantastic. 3 wins on the trot at home, 3 defeats on the trot away. And it was it started off very much that, the home form keeping us there or thereabouts. Then we've been on a run of 5 draws home and away. Against some decent sides in that little run. But Burnley included, Luton away, where we came from 2 goals down. And then Saturday weekend just gone, lost 2-0 away at Sunderland, and that's the first time we've lost by more than a single goal this season. And we I don't say we were outclassed, because I don't think we were, but we weren't. I don't think we were ever going to win the game. But injuries to the forward positions have really hampered us, because we had very little pace and very little to break with. So it was one of those not a game too far, but it just felt like, they are a bit of a class above Sunderland.
You don't need to worry about us beating you by more than one goal because we can't even score at the moment. So, I mean, probably not a risk there. We're the same, though. We haven't actually lost the game by more than one goal this season, which is crazy considering we're on a bit of a negative period, let's say. Probably the nicest way to put it at the moment. I want to say 4 games without a goal or 5 games without a goal or something ridiculous. It's not good down here at the moment. Hopefully we can turn a tide going into this one. Looking at your team then, I just want to kind of highlight any notable incomings that you've had this season. I'd imagine with the promotion, perhaps there's been a few more notable additions than notable departures. So who are the ones that have come in that have perhaps made an instant impact for you?
Yeah, I think at the final count, it was 16 new players in the summer. But certainly at the start of the season, we had a couple of injuries since. But at the start of the season, I think first 3 or 4 games, we started with probably 7, 8, 9 of the team that finished last season. It wasn't a wholesale get rid of, completely rebuild the side. It very much the spine of the team has kind of stuck around and worked well. We've added to that obviously and a bit of class, sort of championship level players have come in, but we've had injuries. I know Shemi Placheta was at your place last season, unfortunately injured.
Has he played for you yet?
He had, briefly, briefly. And it was one of the, we hoped we'd brought in some sort of robust wingers, and there's a couple you can gamble with fitness on.
I think that's why we didn't re-sign him, is because of his fitness. I mean, he was good when he started out for us. We basically took over the rest of his contract from Norwich, but he didn't really play. He got injured and didn't see the season out then. So it was a shame because I think he made an impact when he was in the team. But I would have taken him back, I think, if he was a low-risk, low-cost option, but wasn't to be, of course. So just interested to see how he's getting on with you guys.
Yeah, sadly injured, and he's one of about 4 or 5 wide players, wingers that are currently injured, which is really hampering how we try and play. Because when he was fit and Siriki Dembele, we got Matt Phillips. I'm trying to think who else we got. Kyle Edwards. There's 3 or 4 out and out wide men who are injured at the moment. And at the start of the season, we were playing with proper wingers. It was like right winger out on the touchline, get your boots white on the touchline, and the same on the left. And we tried to play with a bit of width and break. And because of those injuries, it'd be interesting to see how we line up on Saturday. We went to a kind of 3 centre halves and wing backs at Sunderland in the second half, which kind of looked okay, but again, it doesn't give you a great deal of pace. When you're trying to break, you're breaking from quite deep, and it's not quite worked yet.
I mean, I'm probably not too disappointed to hear that. Maybe it'll be a dull 0-0 at the end of this rate, but going into this game, what do we expect to see as a Swansea fan then from yourself? And you said the style of play slightly shifted with some injuries. So what sort of style of play can we expect to see, and how do you think the team will set up going into this game? Yeah,
we try and play football, ball on the deck, and try and play out from the back. And if we've not got possession, we'll keep a very good shape and, like I say, try and break with pace, which we haven't really got at the moment. With, like I say, with the wingers, I'm making a I'm getting my excuses in early if we do get.
You don't need to. We can't score goals, so the minimum you're going to get is a point.
Defensive. We've got if he goes with a back 3 or 4, depends how he plays. They're all comfortable on the ball. The midfielders are comfortable. We've got a young lad who's come through the ranks in Tyler Goodrum, who's he looks like he could be a superstar, and he's scored a few goals this season. And then Mark Harris up front, who's been kind of working hard. He's a Swansea lad, but obviously came through at Cardiff. And
all about him.
Yeah, so him and Dane Scarlett are the 2 that have been kind of alternating as the centre forward, although because of the injuries, Harris ended up playing kind of left wing-ish sort of thing on Saturday with Dane Scarlett as the actual centre forward. So Kieran Brown's another Cardiff old boy, and I think Will Volks as well. So there'll be a little bit of
got a couple of them, haven't you, to be honest?
And Joe Bennett as well. If he hadn't have got injured, he's another injury. But so there's a little bit of Cardiff there. So that'll
hoping that they don't get on the score sheet anyway. You've also got you obviously already mentioned Pajeta, but Josh McEachran. Is he getting on the pitch these days? He is. Yeah. He came on loan to Swansea, first Premier League season, I believe it was. I think it was our first season. Really long time ago now, 2011, 2012 sort of era. Yeah. And didn't really play that much when he came on loan from Chelsea. He was only a young boy then. So he must be getting on a bit now, I would imagine. Perhaps one of the more experienced guys in your team.
He is, yeah. And he was there last season. He's, a local lad, Oxford fan. And he was one from last season that you thought, will they re-sign him or will he stay or will he go, Championship? Perhaps he's getting to that sort of age, but I think he's got that experience and calmness that he's played more than I think we expected him to, and playing with better players has perhaps given him a little bit of an extra lease of life. He can play passes that better players will anticipate, and when he's played, he's looked really, really useful. So I think he probably will play. It'll either be him or Volks playing in that sort of deep midfield role. And Volks has made one or two costly errors this season. McEachran was out injured. Yeah, he might do that on Saturday again. But yeah, so I think McEachran might well start on Saturday, and he's looked really good.
Good to see him coming back up. I think didn't really quite work out for him, maybe as he planned, but yeah. Always nice to see someone that has to fall down to get some football work the way back up. I know you've already mentioned him as well. The Dembele, you signed him in the summer. Someone that was heavily linked with us, Luke Williams, our manager, has actually been out speaking about him in the media this week, saying how he slipped through the net, if you like. Do you think Swansea fans are going to consider him one that's got away? Like, what's your verdict so far?
If he can stay fit at the moment, he's another one that's not fit. One of the guys that sits next to me, he said, I think if he carries on the way he is, he'll be one of the best players we've ever had. He's got that level of skill about him, unbelievably quick feet, and if he can stay fit and work, and it works, but he could be quite a player. Again, it's that injury problem we've got at the moment. He won't be playing Saturday, but he's been a real bright spark this season.
Probably not what we wanted a year, because we are obviously, as I've already mentioned a few times, struggling for goals, and the wing areas is one of the issues with injuries ourselves. Difference is, you said you've got 4 or 5 injuries. We've only got 1, and we're already out of sorts because of it. So that's just the depth that we currently have is an issue, and the signings they clearly wanted to make didn't get all of them over the line. And instead of, I guess it's a good thing in a way, they didn't go and waste maybe the money somewhere else, but we are short, and I think that's showing on the pitch. And it's one of them where you want to hope that you get away with it to the next transfer window, where perhaps you can fix something, but it's been a little bit of a drought at the moment. Speaking of Swansea, if you look at the team, I don't know how much you've seen of us. I wouldn't imagine you watch us that often, but is any of the players in our squad standing up to you as someone that might cause a bit of concern for Oxford?
I messaged you before we started, and the goalkeeper, Lawrence Figure. I mean, we talked about ex.
Maybe you could tell the story a little bit about what happened with him then.
Well, he used to play at Swindon, obviously our big rivals.
With Luke Williams, actually, I believe at the time.
Was he really? Oh, okay.
I think he was there. Yeah, Luke Williams was. That's how he brought him here. He worked with him before at Swindon. See.
Right. Okay. So the big rivalry there. It was the 16-17 season, our first season up in League One after promotion. And in both games against us that season, home and away, he got sent off. And there was also a goal, Chris Maguire, I think the ball was played back to him sort of defensively. Vigouroux took forever to clear it, by which time Chris Maguire has closed him down. And as Vigouroux clears it, Maguire blocks it and scores. So there's always that whenever, I think he was at Orient last season or the season before, and we played them. So he'll get a bit of stick, obviously with the Swindon connection, but also the sort of, I think it'll be lots of dodgy keeper chance, because whenever we've seen it, he's been great entertainment whenever we've seen him play. So yeah, to be sent off in both games again, that's the only times in his career he's been sent off, and both of them were in one season against us. So yeah, we'll be keeping an eye out for him.
Have you played him? Are they the only twice you've played against him by any chance?
I've got a feeling he did play possibly for Orient against us.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a case of every time he plays against Oxford he gets a red card, because I'd be a little bit worried if that was the case and be calling for maybe a bit of a substitution before the match starts. He's been a strong goalkeeper for us so far this season. Obviously, he got picked up by Burnley last year. You'd imagine they obviously saw something in him to take him to the Premier League, even as third choice. Didn't manage to get any game time, but that's how he ended up here in the end, because he wants to kind of get back out there and show what he can do, I'd imagine. Now, he's been strong, and we had a big gap to fill in. Carl Rushworth, who left on loan back to Brighton at the end of last season, tipped to be future England international, he was. So big shoes to fill. He's done it quite well. However, he was kind of at fault for last week's goal against Millwall. So whether that's a case of pressures of our current situation showing now further back in the pitch, I just hope he's got out of the way last week and it's not going to continue into this one. But now you've said all this, it does stand to get a little bit worried. I'm not going to lie.
Whether it's in his mind that way, it will be interesting to see.
I think it was some distribution last week, which cost us. So, like you saying, it was distribution when he conceded that goal. So
I think it will be interesting. He'll need to make no errors in the first 10 or 15 minutes. Otherwise, I think we'll be straight on him if he does.
I'd imagine. I mean, have you got any players that would have been there then that would remember this? Or the manager probably not. So when he coaches,
it's been a while ago. Yeah, Sam Long would have been at the club then. He wasn't playing much back then, but he's one that would have been around at that point. But certainly the fans won't have forgotten.
No, and I guess we're going away, and so it's probably more likely that they're going to get drawn into putting the pressure on there than if maybe it was us at home. Okay, interesting then. This one to watch for anyone that's going to be watching this game, whether they're up there. All the Swans fans travelling up, please give Figaro your best support. I'm sure he's going to need it by the sounds of it. So he has some bad memories to get over. Anyway, I just wanted to ask one more thing. I don't normally ask so much about past games, but there's one that stands in my mind against Oxford. I think because Swansea and Oxford perhaps haven't been in the same league for quite some time. The last match that stands out to me was a League Cup game that we travelled up and lost. And I think John Joe Shelby featured in that and ended up arguing with some fans at the end of it. Kamar Roof scored a couple of goals then. He's someone that name's been floated around as a free transfer for us to be looking at. Us some of our goal scoring problems, which I don't think is going to come to fruition, but quite interesting how things go around, isn't it? But do you recall that game at all? And what was your thoughts and how important was it at the time? Because I think we were quite an established Premier League team, I think, during that game. So I'd imagine us losing that would have been, well, it was bad for us, and I guess for yourself, a really good achievement.
It was the promotion, our promotion season from League Two into League One. And you mentioned Kamar Roof, and we kind of look back on that promotion side, with great affection, because there were some really good, League Two players, and Kamar Roof's in there. George Baldock, who passed away recently, was part of that team, and several others who went on to play, much higher than League Two, and it was just that season. Everything seemed to come together at the right time. That game was an example of that. But we played some fantastic football that season. Went up in second place behind Northampton under Chris Wilder, and that side impressed him, I think, so much he came back and took a couple of the George Baldock went to Sheffield United, and John Lundstrom as well, from that side. So it was, I was there. It was a great day, and you're right. I remember John Joe Shelby at one point. I think Pat Hooban came on and nicked the ball off him and did a couple of step overs, and Shelby looked like he wanted to be anywhere but there. And you're right. I think there was a little bit of an altercation, wasn't there, with fans?
And he never pulled the shirt on again after that and was shortly shipped out the door. I think it was more to that story than meets the eye why he perhaps was in that situation in the first place. But maybe we'll never know all the details. There was a lot going on at the club. I think Laudrup had recently been sacked. Gary Monk was in charge of that game, one of his early games, I believe. And I think, unless it was the season after, actually, it might have been the season after where things started going downhill. But it was around that era anyway, and we were kind of started the season well. Things didn't go to plan, and we played you guys and lost that game at perhaps the time that wasn't ideal in regards to what we were doing on the pitch at the time. So really good result myself. I do remember we scored quite a good goal. I think it was Jefferson Montero scored a good team goal.
Yeah.
But doesn't matter when you lose then, does it? So we got a bit lost in the aftermath, but there we go. Good memories, I guess, for a lot of people though that were there on that day. Thank you for that anyway. I like to end on a little bit of a novelty question, if you like. I just spoke about an away day for the Swans, but what was your best ever away day that you can remember as a football fan?
Cool. Yeah, difficult. I possibly, I mentioned that 16-17 season where Vigouroux got sent off. The away game at Swindon was something else. I've not been to Swansea. It'll be a new one to tick off on the 92, so I'm looking forward to that one. But around about that 16-17 season, we had a couple of pre-season tours where we went abroad. We missed out on European football back in 85-86 when we won the old League Cup. So obviously with the European ban, we never made it into European football. So on a cup, for 2 or 3 years we had Austria and then Spain and then Portugal. Didn't do Austria, but Spain and Portugal were going out. 500 or 600 Oxford fans playing in little, small stadiums out in Spain and Portugal. Those were memorable trips.
That sounds good. I've never been so fortunate to go away abroad to watch the Swans yet. Maybe one day, but I can imagine it's a really good experience. So, that's great. Especially because I'd imagine you go in, I guess, to a pre-season tour like that in more of a smaller club and. Something that you don't do as often as maybe the Man Cities, the Liverpools, the year in, year out. I feel like when it's so regular, maybe takes it away.
Definitely, so, No, it was. I think one of them we played Hull in one of the pre-season, and I think Hull had taken about 10 or 15 fans out there, and I don't think they were expecting quite the turnout that we.
Yeah, it's just like a massive event, I guess, for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I hear good experiences from when we got into Europa League that one year, and not quite the same as pre-season, but like for Swansea, going into the Premier League was a big deal. We were there for a decent amount of time, got to the Europa League, a one-off thing, won the League Cup, and I think that was one of the, if you went to one of those matches, that's something that you'll remember for the rest of your life, especially 3-0 win out in Valencia, for example, and that's, I to imagine, for the fans that were there, one of the best days they're going to have as a fan.
Definitely lives long in the memory, though. Like you say, if you're getting into Europe every single year, it one game blurs into another. But you're right, for the teams where it's not as common. Yeah, no, you do. You remember those forever.
Well, thank you very much, Simon. Can you just remind us all where we can find your content on the Fence End podcast? Yeah,
we're on Twitter and also all the usual podcast places. So the Fence End Pod.
Yeah, go check that out. Like I said, it'll be in the description below the video anyway, or if you're listening on Spotify, it should be somewhere in the description on whatever platform that you're getting your podcasts on. So thank you for joining me, Simon. I'm sure we'll catch up later in the season. Good luck for the rest of the season after the weekend, of course, because we need to get a win. We need to score, right? So I don't really, if you have to get a point out of the game, it's fine. Just let us score a goal to get some confidence up. Yeah. But no, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll catch you again soon.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.